We're going to change the name of the podcast.
Yes, we are.
William came up with a pretty cool name. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So we're going to make the new name Built Different. Thought it would be a nice play on words.
Yeah. Not what you think, right? Not in a good way.
Yeah. Oh.
So, so we're going to change the name of the podcast. We're not making it happen anymore. We're talking about inspection defects and homes that are built different.
I guess so.
Not in a good way. So, all right. Let's go ahead and just jump right on in. The topics of discussion for this podcast are GFCIs, double tapping, clearances, and optimal safety. Right? We got that from the conference.
Yep.
Mike Casey really pounded that into us. So, essentially, home inspector's electrical report is what we're going over here. So, let's go right on in. Working clearances for electrical panels. What do you got there, William?
So this looks like it's in the kitchen. This is an electrical panel that has a shelf installed over it.
What gave that away? Why is that the kitchen? Is it because of all the utensils and the coffee cups?
Yep. Yep. That looks like there may even be a stove below it right there. So
Yeah, you can't just shove a panel or install shelving right on top of a panel. Or, I mean, I don't know if we're all guilty of it, but like putting paintings and stuff over electrical panels, you're not really supposed to do that. Electrical panels get warm, and it's high voltage electricity, and you're supposed to be able to get to them, and it's essentially for safety.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, you want 36 inches in front of it, 30 inches to the side, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's more so for working clearance. They don't. You also don't want it there because, or you don't want to put paintings over it because they're not supposed to be anywhere near combustible material.
Not supposed to be.
In case the panel sparks.
Right. And really, if there's a painting over it and you have a guest at the house, or you don't remember where it's at, how are you going to go over there and turn a breaker off?
Exactly.
I mean, right? I mean, it's kind of like, can't hide it. And then this one, if it's really installed behind a stove cooktop, what if there's an open flame there, or
Well, it's just gonna get steam from boiling water.
You're boiling water, and you're gonna reach over that and try to lean over. Yeah, it's just dangerous.
Yep.
I like this one. So they hit it with a TV. That's a mounted wall. That's a wall mount for a TV. I mean, pretty ingenious, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what the big danger is there? What they really? I mean, that's a serious no. What are we looking at there? What could have really gone wrong there, William?
Well, they could have just drilled into live electrical wiring.
Yeah, I mean, they bolted right into the side of the wall. I mean, right into the wall that's to the side of the panel, and there could be high voltage wiring right there. And you just drill right into it, and then zit 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 zit. Good night, Irene. Right? I mean, so. And plus, that TV gets really warm sometimes now, right? I mean, Especially if it's a plasma TV, it's going to get really hot. Then you got the electrical panel right behind it. So you're kind of messing with the efficiency or even efficacy of the electrical system for the house.
Yeah, big no-no. I don't like it.
What's going on here?
So the inspector here wrote that the wire sizing was not compatible with breaker sizing.
Oh, we talked about this. Remember that? We had to actually research this before the podcast. So just see if we can make this less complicated than we need to. What did we find here? Was the inspector wrong?
I remember now. We believe these were the air conditioner breakers.
So yeah, in the report, this breaker was not labeled, right? However, looking at the panel, it had to go to the HVAC system.
Yeah.
And why would we have determined that?
Well, the breakers are handle tied together.
Yep. And the typical setup for that, when they're handle tied like that, is the 20 amp on the inside would be going to the air handler up in the attic, or the split system where the air handler is, or the furnace, which plugs into a 20 amp outlet, right?
Yep.
And the HVAC system, which is a condenser, which was located outside, typically has a 30 amp breaker.
Yep.
So this would be a typical setup: 20 amp in between, locked out with a 30 amp on the outside. So,
And essentially, well, if this for any other system other than the air conditioner, these wires would be undersized. But if the minimum rating is 20 amp for the air conditioner, but you could put a 30 amp breaker on it,
right.
you're allowed to use the undersized wiring for the 30 amp at that point.
Yeah, and the labeling on the condenser will actually dictate what the range is, right?
Yeah.
And it can tell you what size wiring you can use, which could be different than what's in the standard electrical code.
Yep.
So you have to read your labels if you're an inspector and check. Sometimes it will tell you what wire gauge is rated for that condenser, and then it will also tell you what breakers range you can have. And so it's not just read electrical code and cookie cutter for that. These condensers have different ratings, and there's exceptions. So that's a one we find a lot. and if you have that, you won't know unless you take off the cover to the panel. And a homeowner is not qualified. Your father-in-law is not qualified. Your brother-in-law is not qualified to take the cover off an electrical panel. This is high voltage wiring. There's training involved with that. You need to have protective equipment on. It's dangerous. And a qualified home inspector is definitely going to be able to do that and then look inside there and actually determine how the wiring connects to the breakers. And this is a condition we find quite a bit. What's going on here, Wood?
So this looks like they ran out of room for more breakers, or they just got lazy, and they just put 2 wires into 1 breaker, which is not acceptable. They do have breakers where you can do this. This isn't that kind of breaker.
Like square D breakers?
Yep. And essentially, this is probably going to lead to overheating eventually.
Or excessive tripping?
Yep.
Right? It could be a tripping nuisance.
Yep.
So,
and this is something we see commonly as home inspectors, and this is actually kind of one of the first things that home inspectors typically learn when looking at an electrical panel, because it's the easiest thing to catch.
yeah. Call it double lugging or double tapping to a breaker.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
So this is another easy find that we see all the time. I expect to see 1 or 2 of these every house.
Pretty much, right?
Sometimes 8 or 9, but this is just an open electrical box that needs a lid on it. Super easy fix, but we don't want stuff like rats and pests getting to these high voltage wiring, or even especially on the interior of the home.
Yeah.
We don't want people coming into contact with that if they're like, storing stuff up there and whatnot.
Yeah. Should definitely put a cover on that.
Okay.
Ooh, you remember this? You remember this one? All right.
Yes.
So we're looking at a bathroom here. It's an ensuite, obviously, right? That's a bedroom in the background.
Yep.
And you would think that you shouldn't have light switches that close to a tub because it's electrical, right?
Yep.
Are you allowed to have an outlet there?
No.
Outlet wouldn't be allowed to be there because you would plug in your outlet, charge your phone while you're in the tub. No good, right?
Correct.
However, what's going on here, though? This inspector called this out and said it wasn't allowed. I'm going to say, was he right or was he wrong?
He's wrong.
I'm going
But
to say
he can be right, potentially. So this code varies different per jurisdiction. Some cities allow it. Most cities allow it, I would say. Very few cities don't. Now, in the National Electric Code, says this is okay.
okay. Yeah, because it's just a switch.
Yes.
We're not plugging things in and disconnecting a circuit.
Now, as far as the National Electric Code is concerned, the light switch just can't be in the shower unless it's waterproof.
I see. Okay. And it's not. It's actually not in the surround. That's a bathtub there. I don't think there's a shower there. I think it's just a bathtub, and it's on the wall next to it.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
So, if the inspector just wants to err on the side of,
The comment, you're right.
safety.
The comment should be check with your local, building department regarding permits and things like that.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Now, we love seeing breaker labels that are all messed up.
So what's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, William?
Who knows?
Sometimes they'll have a label next to it or on the cover that actually where it'll identify number 1 goes to the bedroom, number 2 goes to the exteriors, number 3 goes to this, number 4 goes to that. That's not really how you should be numbering an electrical panel. I shouldn't have to decipher the code, right?
Yeah.
It should be labeled right there on the breaker where it basically services.
Yep. And it should be in English, not Chinese, right? Not Spanish.
It should be in English. We're in the United States.
We do see it in Chinese pretty often. Now, this is a great overview photo. Good home inspectors take lots of photos. I remember I was just certifying someone's report at the state level, and they didn't have any overviews in their report.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I? It was really hard reviewing that report because I couldn't double check their work.
Right. When you didn't need to double check him, you just need to make sure the report was written to standards, and it was.
Yes.
Right. But he could have added a lot more photos to his report. But here's one of the reasons I think inspectors don't. Number one reason is I think they're lazy. But some inspectors won't put photos in because they're on the hook for it.
Yeah.
Right. You put a photo of the electrical panel here, and you miss something. So if you have a lot of overviews that basically show you as a customer pictures of rooms, overviews of an electrical panel. This is very technical right here. There's physics involved, right? And there's the National Electrical Code, probably one of the more difficult codes to understand and have knowledge on, other than maybe the mechanical code, right?
Yep.
And if your inspector's putting that photo in there, that should be an indication your inspector has confidence he knows what he's doing. If I buy an inspection and I don't have pictures in my report, I'm going to question the competence of that inspector, right?
Well, I think they misinterpret it as, well, yeah, you're on the hook for it if you miss it, but at the same time, you can see it the other way. It protects you.
Yeah.
This is the condition. Your room was full of stuff, or the electrical panel is full of wiring. I could not possibly have seen that.
Well, the photo should tell a story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So it's like inspector should be definitely taking pictures under cabinets where it's full of items, or the garage if it's full of personal items, because it shows that, my inspection was limited. But they should also say limited review. So, I mean, I think photos make the case and help back up your narratives in the comments, both ways. There's another overview. It's great. It's an older panel. Another good photo showing the actual cover this time.
No, I don't do that, but maybe I should start.
Yeah. So, okay, what do we have here, William?
So we have double tapping on the neutral bus bar.
Okay, this is NEC, the National Electric Code 408.41, and it specifically states single conductors to a single terminal. And that's not what we have here. You've got, two neutrals to a terminal. Looks like there's two neutrals to one terminal. I see one ground and neutral to a terminal down there in the middle.
Yep. Now, this can lead to overheating. I've seen scorching on areas where they do double tap like this.
Okay.
Now, this isn't to be confused with the green wire, which is the ground wire. You can double tap those.
Okay.
That's acceptable, just not the neutrals, because the neutrals actually carry load a lot more often than the grounds do, which is very rare. But yeah, these should be separated into individual lugs. I can see down there at the very bottom, looks like they're even open lugs. So I think that's kind of funny. They do have room for it. And yeah, this is something that's easily corrected. It's just moving the wire and individualizing them.
Okay. . 。 So he's got a photo of this and an arrow to it where you have a wood screw fastening a metal component. Should be a metal sheet metal screw, right?
So this is the reason why home inspectors should be taking their safety a lot more seriously when they're undoing electrical panels, which most home inspectors don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even I'm guilty. I don't wear eyewear when I'm opening up electrical panels. I don't wear gloves. I pretty much just use an insulated screwdriver at least, because you don't know what that screw looks like on the other side.
Right.
You don't know if it's pierced a wire.
Right.
You don't know if it's pointy. This is actually not allowed for the reason that this screw could be puncturing insulation on high voltage electrical wiring and could be unsafe for the inspector to unscrew or anybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and you're pulling out a screw that's an inch long. There's wiring back there. It's high voltage wiring. It should be a short, blunt tip, and it should be a machine screw.
Yep.
So we see this all the time. It's egregious. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I've unscrewed at least 2 screws that punctured wiring.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
So taking photos, let's talk about the other aspect of taking photos. I can't stand rookie inspectors, or any inspector for that matter, taking pictures of outlets and putting an arrow to a picture of an outlet. And we actually recently had a customer complain that we didn't have pictures or descriptive narratives in the report of where the defective outlets were, that we just put hot, neutral, reversed, or ungrounded 3-prong outlets throughout the home. So I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. So the reason our inspectors didn't say where every single one was is there was like 200 outlets in the house. Our job is not to make a list of 30 different locations of outlets and their problems, right? This is a home inspection with a home inspection report to help you make an informed decision. And so our rule of thumb is if the same defect is in 3 rooms or more, right, equal to 3 or more, then throughout the house, right? So many rooms are in the house, right? When you start having to describe the location of an outlet in a 4th room, now the report gets kind of confusing, right? It's like 2nd level rear left center, and then 1st level rear right outlet in the left wall right corner. I mean, you just can't do that, right? But I mean, you can describe 2, maybe 3 locations in the report if you wanted to. But once it's in that 3rd location, you just identify, especially if the house is occupied, that it's throughout the house. Get your electrician out there, look at everything.
At that point, I think further investigation is warranted,
right? You recommend further review or recommend verifying condition of all the outlets of the home. Now, this particular instance was if there's only 1 or 2 locations, take a picture of where it's at, put it in the report, but it's not like a zoomed in picture of the outlet to show you something, because your narrative, that's an ungrounded 3-pronged outlet, or it didn't have a GFCI or something like that, right?
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Your narrative is what describes the condition with the outlet. The picture's not going to show you that defect at all.
No.
It doesn't show you that it's not a GFCI. It doesn't show you that it's ungrounded in any kind of way. So if you're an inspector, you should back. In fact, this picture is even a little closer than I like. You should back up as far as you can, because the only thing the picture's doing is showing you where the location of the outlet is, and that's it. And so the inspector did a good job here. I think it's pretty easy to find that outlet because it's got the door or the window there. You can see that that's probably a living room, and this is the backyard or the side of the house with like a stoop or a step there. Pretty easy to find that location. It would have been nice if he'd been back a little further, but anyway, that's one of my pet peeves. And there you go. There's a GFCI. That's an engineered diagram. I love it when inspectors put engineered diagrams or illustrations in the report, helping people understand what an acronym is or what a technical term is. And this one does a great job of that. GFCI, circuit breaker. It's a receptacle. It has buttons on it. Most people know what those are. Okay, what do we have here? That's a tankless water heater, William. And he's got an arrow pointing to an outlet there. And so what's he trying to show us here?
He is showing. This is another missing GFCI.
It's another missing GFCI. He's got a picture of the outlet, and he's got the water heater there. So easy to find that outlet, right?
Yep.
Again, I really wish he would have backed up and not been so close, because what if you don't know if the water heater's on the right side of the house or the left side? It'd be nice to kind of back up a little bit to kind of just show, oh, it's over there, Our field of vision with our eyes, like I'm looking at this room, I can see the whole room with my peripheral vision. I can see probably, I would say 90% of the room. And we're in a 20 by 20 room, 400 square feet. So if I'm standing here and you're zoomed into one small area, I've got to scan the whole room now to find that little area. Whereas if you were on the other side of the room and showed the whole room and pointed arrow to something, it would be a lot easier for me to find it. And that's just good reporting. And that's an experienced inspector that does that.
Yep.
So look at that there. So that's backed up. You should be able to find that light fixture. So this inspector is really good at taking pictures and putting a lot in his report. It's pretty cool. And so he's got a pendant light here, or a sconce here that's on the outside of the house, missing a light bulb, and he's showing a picture of where it's at, which is great. There's the pendant light. And this one is good because you can't even see what the defect is in the photo, but he's showing you where the condition's at. And what's really cool is what he did here is he took a picture of that, pointed an arrow to it. You really can't see what that arrow's doing. And then he went to the next photo, zoomed in, and right next to that photo in the report, you can see the defect.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, look over here. This is where our defect is, kind of in the general vicinity, and then gives the close-up to it. Love that. Love that. Yeah, it's great.
So that's it.
That's what we got today?
Yep, that's all we got.
Yeah, I really like going over the electrical things. It's fun. Talking about how to inspect, how to take photos, why we report on certain things that we do. It's interesting how you don't realize that a lot of stuff in your home is a safety issue with electrical. So you should always definitely have an inspection done. And please leave us your comments, like the podcast. Please click that subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot. And we'll see you next time.
Yep.